I will say that I think a lot in part comes from our teachers union pushing a certain narrative. I mean, it's very clear on their Facebook page, on their social media. They say we have to elect Democrat leaders because more money is going to fix the problem. Kids are not a test score. But the whole point of school is having formal learning, is having specific things that we're supposed to be teaching our kids in content. And I think for such a long time, there was just that trust of, teachers are going to teach. But then when you start seeing issues of sexuality and gender identity, you say, wait a second. Are teachers undermining me as a parent? That's when parents get a little bit uncomfortable.
You mentioned briefly SROs. You are all in favor of increasing that safety officer, that police presence within our schools?
Yes, and we actually, last year was the first year that there was an SRO officer and a mental health counselor at every school. And so that begged the question, like, why did we not have them before? But this is definitely something that when we work with the Wilmington Police Department and the Sheriff's Department, that we need to continue to collaborate with that, because we have seen an increase in violence, particularly of juvenile violence. And in a worst case and last resort scenario, they definitely need to be there to protect our teachers and our students, because they are not there for defense mechanisms. We need to have other defense mechanisms in place, such as locked doors and single entry, multiple exits, having a system. I would love to see a system that alerts the police. We have systems in place with our school system that will alert specific people, but then to go on to the police department so they can be responsive in an emergency situation. And those things are hard to discuss openly, because you don't want to tell everything what's going on in the school system for safety purposes, because you don't want intruders taking advantage of that.
And let's be clear: is that your Democrat opponents are very much against an increased police presence in the schools. They really want to get away from SROs completely. One of them said no SROs in elementary schools at all. And we're living in a time where crime is on the increase, especially in our schools.